Hi, I'm Ricky Robertson. I'm an author and educator, and I support schools in developing social, emotional, and behavioral supports for students, especially those impacted by adverse childhood experiences and trauma. In this session, we're going to be discussing resilience. I want to start by asking you, when I ask the question, what is resilience? What word or phrases come to mind? Perhaps for some of you, it's grit, or bouncing back, or adapting, or perseverance, and these are all aspects of resilience. Now, thankfully, we have a tremendous body of research on healthy human resilience, and I want to highlight the work of one researcher in particular, Bonnie Bernard. Bonnie Bernard's research over the course of decades identified certain traits and characteristics of healthy human resilience. And these traits and characteristics apply to both students as well as adults. Those 4 traits that Bonnie Bernard uncovered that are key components of healthy resilience include social competence. So for a student or a young person, that's having healthy enough relationships, hopefully at home, within their family, and also at school, and developing the skills for communication, for empathy, for responding to and advocating for one's needs and establishing healthy boundaries that come with forming healthy relationships. A second trait is autonomy, or what's sometimes referred to as emotional autonomy. So this would be a student that has a positive sense of self, an internal locus of control, and also is able to tell what they're feeling and how to appropriately express and manage those emotions and feelings. Emotional autonomy is also connected to having a sense of humor, patience, and a growth mindset when a student encounters challenges. A third important trait has to do with problem-solving skills. So resourcefulness, asking for help when needed. In fact, it may surprise you, but a component of healthy resilience is actually seeking help when you're stuck or overwhelmed. And also being able to take in multiple perspectives and have some degree of flexibility and consideration when making decisions and adapting as needed. And the fourth and final domain of healthy human resilience is having a sense of hope and purpose. So a student who feels inspired by their future, who feels both a sense of self-agency in the moment, but also a sense of hope and possibility for what is to come in their life and what they will ultimately create. When we view resilience in this way, we begin to understand that it's actually comprised of a set of various social emotional skills that are best learned and practiced within healthy relationships. We have an incredible opportunity as educators to foster the resilience of our students by helping them to develop skills for communication, for problem solving, for having a growth mindset when they encounter challenges, and also getting to practice managing stress in healthy ways, making a plan and carrying it out, developing those executive functioning skills, and also developing the capacity to manage difficult emotions that come up during the course of the school day and handle them in ways that are healthy and positive. Now, resilience is also personal, it's strength-based, and it's cultural. We each have unique aspects of who we are that help us to be resilient, and we also have unique growth areas. So for some students, it may be their perseverance or their stick-to-itiveness or their sense of humor or their flexibility or helpfulness that support their resilience, while there may be other areas where they could grow or benefit from some additional support or help learning new skills. One more thing that I'd like to point out about resilience is that some degree of challenge and difficulty in life is not only inevitable, but can actually make us stronger. And so young people might experience what are sometimes referred to as positive experiences of stress, like playing a sport and having a big game, or studying really hard for a test or an exam. There can also be forms of stress that are difficult, that are painful, but ultimately tolerable, like losing a loved one, but still having friends and family who will support you in your grief. And lastly, there can be forms of stress that are toxic, such as abuse, neglect, or witnessing domestic violence at home, that trigger a toxic stress response in the body and make it very difficult for children to recover without additional support, intervention, and ultimately some space of safety, belonging, and care. One of the things that I also want us to keep in mind is sometimes we can have some assumptions about resilience that maybe aren't so accurate or might even be unhealthy. Dr. Claudia Black in the 1980s said that children who grow up in families impacted by abuse, neglect, and substance dependence often learn 3 unspoken rules: don't talk, don't trust, and don't feel. And so for some children, they grow up in households where it is not safe enough to ask for help. It's not safe enough to express certain emotions. And it's certainly not safe enough to talk about what they're experiencing at home because it may bring shame upon the family or further abuse. And so they can become sometimes what's referred to as a parentified child, a child who takes on a lot of adult responsibilities very early on, who doesn't have a real ability to feel safe at home and oftentimes in the rest of their life, and they grow up very quickly. Now, they can become an individual who's incredibly strong, but who has a difficult time expressing their emotions, especially emotions that were forbidden at home when they were growing up. They have a very hard time asking for help. And so from the outside, they can look very resilient, and they certainly are very strong, but they're also suffering considerably. So when we look at the different components of healthy human resilience that Bonnie Bernard has highlighted for us and has discovered in her research, we begin to understand that resilience is far more emotionally intelligent and relationally connected than we might have assumed. And that brings me to one of my final points, which is that resilience isn't just individual or personal, it's also collective. Children don't grow up in isolation. They grow up within the context of a family or a neighborhood, a school, a community. And so it's critical that we talk about community resilience. Now, community resilience refers to a community's ability to adapt, respond to, endure, and bounce back from different forms of adversity. And it is very much shaped and influenced by a community's access to resources. So things like healthcare, jobs that pay a living wage, affordable housing, restorative and transformative approaches to justice, things that help to create healthy communities and in turn foster healthy children. So when we think about the role of schools and education professionals, I think it's important to consider the fact that we play a valuable role in building what is called an ecosystem of care for children and families. That means that within the schoolhouse, we can provide young people with important protective factors, positive childhood experiences that foster their resilience. And we do that when we form supportive relationships with students, when we teach and model regulation practices like mindfulness, movement breaks, peace corners in the classroom, when we teach skills to resolve conflict and handle challenges, because for some of our students, I know that I can trust you not on my best day as your student, but on my worst. And it's actually in those moments of conflict when trust is built, and also when we're able to really develop some new skills potentially to prevent challenges from happening over and over and over again. And so when we teach young people ways to repair harm, accept responsibility, and also advocate for their own needs within the school setting, we're teaching skills that are going to support their well-being and their resilience. Now, we also have the ability to be a bridge between the school and different community-based organizations, so that if families need support with counseling services, or perhaps support with housing or accessing a reliable source for food, etc., or even community enrichment programs that help to bring a sense of joy and play and hope and possibility and connection into the lives of young people, schools can create partnerships with these community-based organizations, healthcare providers, mental health clinicians, etc., and help to be a bridge between students and families and these important sources of support and enrichment. So, in effect, when we talk about resilience, it's not something that just focuses solely on the individual. It holds up a mirror to the health and well-being of the entire community, and how important it is that communities have equitable access to resources, and the vital role that schools can play within building up communities that create an ecosystem of care for students and families.
The Trauma-Informed Teaching Series is made possible by a partnership between the National Education Association and WETA. For more information, please visit adlit.org/trauma.